Kevin Martinez was a construction worker in Ohio making $38,000 a year. Lived paycheck to paycheck, drove a 15-year old truck held together with duct tape and prayer, ate ramen 4 nights a week. Then on the 12th of November, 2019, Kevin bought a single lottery ticket at a gas station. $5. Changed his entire life. He won $50 million. After taxes, $28 million. More money than he'd ever imagined. More money than anyone in his family had ever seen. 3 years later, Kevin was broke. Completely broke. Living in his sister, working minimum wage at a warehouse. Every single dollar gone. How do you lose $28 million in 3 years? How do you go from winning the lottery to worse off than where you started? This is that story. The story of how money destroyed Kevin Martinez. How winning the lottery became the worst thing that ever happened to him. If you think money solves all your problems, you need to hear this. Kevin Martinez was 32 years old in 2019. Born and raised in Canton, Ohio. Blue collar through and through. His dad was a factory worker. His mom cleaned houses. Kevin followed his dad into manual labor construction. Framing houses, hard work, honest work. But it didn't pay much. He never went to college, couldn't afford it. Started working at 18. Been doing construction for 14 years. Good at his job, reliable. Showed up on time, did quality work. But there is no getting rich in construction when you are not the owner. Kevin lived in a small rented apartment, 1 bedroom. Needed repairs his landlord ignored, but it was home. He drove that beat up 2004 Ford F-150 rusted, check engine light permanently on. But it ran, mostly. He wasn't married. Had a girlfriend, Lisa, for 2 years. She worked at the hospital as a nurse. They talked about getting married someday. When they could afford it. When Kevin could save enough for a ring. That someday kept getting pushed back. Money was always tight. Kevin made about $38,000 a year after taxes and rent. There wasn't much left. He had credit card debt. Not crazy amounts, but enough to stress about. $5,000 on one card, $3,000 on another. Student loans from that semester of community college he'd tried before. Dropping out every month was a balancing act. Which bills to pay? Which could wait? Grocery shopping meant checking prices on everything. Never buying name brand, never eating out unless it was a special occasion. Kevin's family wasn't doing much better. His sister Maria worked retail. Single mom with 2 kids. His parents were retired but struggling on Social Security. His brother Danny bounced between jobs, always asking to borrow money Kevin didn't have. But Kevin didn't complain. This was life. Working class America. Millions of people living the same way, paycheck to paycheck. One emergency away from disaster. But you get up, go to work. Do your best. That is what you do. Kevin, he had Lisa. Had his health, had a job. Could have been worse. He'd see homeless people sometimes and think, at least I have a roof over my head. At least I am not there. On Fridays, Kevin had one small luxury. He'd stop at the gas station after work. Buy a beer. Buy a lottery ticket. $5. His weekly ritual. Never won more than $10 here and there, but it was hope. That tiny chance that maybe, just maybe, life could be different. The 12th of November, 2019. That was the Friday everything changed. Kevin stopped at the same BP gas station he always did. End of a long week, body sore from work. Grabbed a 6-pack of cheap beer and his usual lottery ticket. Quick pick, random numbers. Didn't even look at them before shoving the ticket in his wallet. That Saturday morning, Kevin slept in, first day off in 12 straight days. Lisa had an overnight shift at the hospital. Kevin made coffee, turned on ESPN, and opened his laptop to check his bank account. $342 until payday on Monday. He remembered the lottery ticket, pulled it out of his wallet. The drawing had been Friday night. He Googled the winning numbers. Then his heart stopped. Every number matched. Every single one. Kevin stared at the screen, looked at his ticket, back at the screen, back at the ticket. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. He checked 3 more times, typed the numbers manually. Checked the lottery website, checked the news site. They all said the same thing. One winner. Ohio. His numbers. Kevin's hands started shaking. He couldn't breathe. $50 million. The jackpot was $50 million. And he had the only winning ticket. He called Lisa. She was just getting off shift. "Babe, I need you to come home right now." His voice cracked. She heard the panic and said she'd be there in 20 minutes. When Lisa walked in, Kevin just handed her the ticket and his laptop showing the numbers. She looked at them, then at him, then back at the screen, and she started crying. They sat on his cheap couch, holding each other, both shaking. Kevin kept saying, "This doesn't happen to people like us. This doesn't happen." But it had. It had happened. They called the lottery office that Monday, went through verification. It was real. The ticket was legitimate. Kevin Martinez had won $50 million. After taxes, the lump sum would be $28 million. The news broke 2 days later. Canton construction worker wins mega millions. Kevin's face was plastered everywhere. Local news, national news. Everyone knew. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Texts, calls, Facebook messages, people he hadn't talked to in years, suddenly reaching out to congratulate him. Kevin and Lisa were in shock. They hired a lawyer, a financial advisor. People kept telling Kevin to be smart. Don't blow it. Invest it. Make it last. Kevin nodded, said all the right things. He'd be smart. He'd be careful. But in the back of his mind, Kevin was already thinking about all the things he could finally have, the life he could finally live, the person he could finally become. He had no idea what was coming. The first thing Kevin bought was a house. Not just any house, a mansion in a gated community outside Canton. 6 bedrooms, pool, home theater, 3-car garage. Cost him $2 million cash. Didn't even blink. Then the cars. He bought a brand new Ford Raptor, $75,000. Then a Mercedes for Lisa. Then a Porsche for himself because, why not? $300,000 in cars in 1 week. Kevin quit his construction job, just didn't show up on Monday, texted his boss. "I won the lottery. I am done." That was it. 14 years of construction work. Over he started spending like he'd never run out. Designer clothes, $1,000 sneakers, Rolex watches, 5-star restaurants every night. Bottles of champagne that cost more than his old monthly rent. Kevin gave his parents $500,000, paid off their house, bought them a new car, gave his sister $300,000. His brother got $200. He felt like a hero. Like he was saving his family. Lisa quit her nursing job. They got engaged. Kevin spent $100,000 on a ring. They planned a destination wedding in Hawaii, spared no expense. Flew out 50 people, cost $300,000 for 1 weekend. Kevin's inner circle expanded. Suddenly he had friends he didn't remember having, cousins he'd never met. Old high school classmates reaching out. Everyone wanted to hang out. Everyone had business ideas, investment opportunities, sure things that just needed capital. Kevin started saying yes to everything. Gave his buddy $50,000 to start a food truck. Lost it all in 6 months. Invested $100,000 in his cousin's cryptocurrency scheme. Gone. Loaned money left and right. Most never came back. The requests never stopped. Family asking for help with medical bills. Friends needing money for rent. People showing up at his door with sob stories. Kevin couldn't say no. He was the guy who won the lottery. He was supposed to help people. That is what good people do, right? But something else was happening. Kevin was bored. He'd quit his job, had no structure, no purpose, just money and time. So he started going out. Vegas trips, Atlantic City, clubs, parties. Cocaine started showing up at these parties. Kevin tried it, liked it, started using regularly. The money was flowing out like water, but Kevin had $28 million. How do you spend 28 million? Impossible, or so he thought. Year 1 after winning, Kevin had spent $8 million. He didn't even notice. By year 2, Kevin's life was chaos. The mansion that was supposed to bring happiness was just a big empty house filled with strangers pretending to be friends. His relationship with Lisa fell apart. The engagement lasted 6 months after the wedding. She couldn't handle the lifestyle, the drugs, the random people always around, the constant parties. Lisa begged Kevin to slow down, get help, be the person she fell in love with. But Kevin was too far gone. She left. Took $1 million settlement in the divorce. Kevin barely noticed. His family relationships were destroyed. His sister Maria came back asking for more money. Her kids needed private school. She needed a bigger house. When Kevin said no, she accused him of being selfish, called him greedy. They stopped speaking. His brother Danny was worse. Danny quit his job after getting that initial $200,000, blew through it in months, came back asking for more. When Kevin refused, Danny threatened to go to the media, said Kevin abandoned his family. Kevin gave him another $100,000 just to make him go away. Even his parents, who'd been so grateful, started having expectations. They'd mention things they needed: a new roof, a vacation, medical expenses. Kevin paid for everything, but it was never enough. There was always something else. Kevin's phone was constant stress, people asking for money, getting angry when he said no, calling him fake, saying the money changed him. And it had. But not in the way they thought. The friends around Kevin weren't friends. They were users. People who showed up for the free drinks, the drugs, the parties. When Kevin mentioned slowing down, they'd find someone else to leech off. When he talked about feeling empty, they'd just offer him another line of coke. Kevin tried to find real connections, started dating. But every woman he met, he wondered, did she like him or the money? How could he ever know? Every conversation, every gesture. He questioned, was this real, or was she just waiting for the payday? He became paranoid, thought people were using him, which they were. Thought people only cared about his money, which they did. He withdrew, stopped answering calls, stopped going, just sat in his massive empty house, alone with his drugs and his expensive things that meant nothing. Kevin looked at his bank account. 12 million left. He'd spent 16 million in 2 years. The financial advisor kept calling. Kevin ignored him. The lawyer kept warning him. Kevin stopped taking meetings. He told himself he was fine. He still had 12 million. That is more than most people make in 10 lifetimes. He'd be fine. But he wasn't fine. And it was about to get worse. Year 3 was when everything collapsed. Kevin's drug use spiraled. Cocaine every day, started mixing in pills, opioids, benzos. Whatever numbed the emptiness. He was spending $10,000 a week just on drugs. The parties continued, but now they were desperate, sad. Just Kevin and whoever he was paying to be there. Dealers, hangers. On people who didn't even pretend to like him anymore. Kevin made terrible investments trying to chase losses, put $2 million into a nightclub that failed in 6 months, another $1 million into a tech startup that was a straight-up scam. He was trying to make the money grow back, but he had no idea what he was doing, and everyone around him knew it. The expenses never stopped. Property taxes on the mansion, $200,000 a year. Insurance on the cars, maintenance. Staff he'd hired then forgot about. Monthly bills that would have seemed insane 3 years ago now just auto-paid from his account. Kevin stopped checking his balance. Didn't want to know. Just kept spending, kept using, kept telling himself everything would be okay. The IRS came calling. Turns out, Kevin owed back taxes. His accountant, who he'd fired for being negative, had been right about quarterly payments. Kevin owed $3 million. Money he didn't have liquid. Had to sell the Porsche, then the Mercedes. Then started selling jewelry. Collection agencies started calling about credit cards. Kevin had maxed out. Credit cards. The guy who won the lottery had maxed out credit cards. He'd bought stuff on credit because his accounts were locked up in bad investments. The mansion went into foreclosure. Kevin had missed 6 months of payments on the mortgage he took out to buy more property that was now worthless. The bank took the house. Kevin had to move out of the place he'd bought for $2 million in cash. Didn't even own it anymore. He moved into a cheap apartment back where he started. Except now he had no job. No skills that weren't construction, a resume with a 3-year gap, and a drug problem that cost more per Dalton Y than he used to make per week. Kevin's brother found him passed out in that apartment, called an ambulance overdose. They saved him barely. Put him in rehab 28 days. Kevin's sister paid for it. The sister he'd called greedy. She paid with her own money because Kevin was broke. When Kevin got out of rehab, he checked his bank account for the first time in months. $400. That was it. $28 million. Gone in 3 years. Kevin was 35 years old and starting over. Except this time was harder than when he was 18. Because now he had a massive gap on his resume. A reputation. Everyone knew him as the lottery winner who blew it all. He moved into his sister Maria's basement, the same sister he'd given $300,000 to. She took him in. No judgment, just love. Said he could stay as long as he needed. Her kids, his niece and nephew, treated him normal. Like he was just Uncle Kevin, not the cautionary tale he'd become. Kevin got a job at a warehouse. Amazon fulfillment center. $12 an hour. Overnight shift. He'd gone from millionaire to making $25,000 a year. Every day he loaded boxes and thought about how he used to spend more in a week than he'd now make in a year. His body hurt. He was out of shape, soft from 3 years of doing nothing physical. The work was brutal, but he showed up, every shift, because what else could he do? Lisa reached out. She'd heard about what happened. Wanted to make sure he was okay. They met for coffee. She was engaged to someone else now, a doctor, living a normal, stable life. She told Kevin she was happy, not because of the money she'd gotten in the divorce, but because she'd gotten out before it destroyed her too. Kevin's parents forgave him, said they never cared about the money. Just wanted their son back. They had coffee every Sunday now. Talked about regular stuff. Football, the weather, family gossip, like the lottery had never happened. His brother Danny disappeared, last Kevin heard. He was in Florida, still chasing get-rich-quick schemes. They didn't talk. Kevin went to NA meetings. Narcotics Anonymous, stayed sober. One day at a time, met people who'd lost everything to addiction. Some had lost less than him in dollar amounts, but they'd lost just as much of themselves. They understood 2 years after the money ran out, Kevin was still working at the warehouse, still living in Maria's basement, still driving a beat up car, still broke. But something was different. He wasn't miserable, wasn't empty. The desperation was gone. He had routine, purpose, people who cared about him for him, not for what he could give them. Kevin would never be rich again, would probably never own a house again, would work until he was 70, but he was okay, actually okay. For the first time since winning the lottery, Kevin was okay. So what is the lesson? What do you take from Kevin Martinez's story? Here is the truth about money. It doesn't solve problems, it magnifies them. If you have bad habits, money makes them worse. If you have weak boundaries, money destroys them. If you don't know who you are, money won't help you find out. Kevin didn't lose $28 million because he was stupid. He lost it because money revealed who he really was. Someone with no financial education, no discipline, no ability to say no. Those problems existed before the money. The money just made them catastrophic. The people around Kevin didn't change. They were always users, always selfish. The money just gave them permission to show it. Real relationships survive without money. Fake ones need it. Kevin's happiness didn't come from the mansion or the cars or the parties. It came from purpose, from working, from family who loved him, from being sober, from being himself. He had to lose everything to figure that out. If you ever come into money, here is what Kevin learned. First, real financial advisors. Lawyers, people who have nothing to gain from your stupidity. Second, don't tell everyone. The moment people know you have money, you become a target. Third, live below your means. Even if you have millions, live like you don't. But most importantly, money won't fix you. If you are unhappy broke, the emptiness doesn't care about your bank account. Kevin would give anything to go back to that gas station in 2019, to not buy that ticket to keep his $38,000 life. Because that life, with all its struggles, was real, and real is better than rich and empty any day. The lottery didn't ruin Kevin's life. Winning it did, and he'll spend the rest of his life learning to live with that. Money doesn't buy happiness, Kevin knows. And now, so do you.